Hello YouTube, this is Morian Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Anime review. This one's going to be for episode 224, which is called The Legend of the Monster Cat. So this is Iwabe versus Wasabi in the tuning exams. A fight that I think we all went into thinking that it was going to be probably one of the more interesting fights because they're two brawlers. Like this was going to be like a slugfest fight. What we got was basically the exact opposite and effectively no real exchanges in that Iwabe used a jutsu, she dodged it, she charged him, and then they basically just sort of clashed and then had a big conversation. The clash stops, they had a conversation, and the result of the fight was more of the character stuff that they were going for between the characters rather than any sense of actually like combat of them throwing jutsus at each other. So it was one of these sort of, kind of screwy finishes to the fight here, where of course Wasabi wins, which I think most people were predicting because it was the title of the episode. They had not really set up any sort of character dynamic for Iwabe over the course of the tuning exams. So it felt like, okay, Denki at least has a little bit of an arc in terms of their team. So if anyone's on that team is going to get it, it's going to be Denki. So, and then on this team, you were maybe leaning more towards Tsubaki, but at this point, it really felt like, okay, yeah, I think Wasabi's going to get it. So it's a weird episode in that, yes, I'm disappointed we didn't actually get to see the brawl match that could have been between these two characters. But I appreciate that we got some pretty good character development for Wasabi, who is a character that we don't focus on too much at all. And in this episode, we learned quite a lot about her in terms of like we got to meet her parents, we got to meet her grandmother, we got to learn about sort of the ultimate jutsu of her clan. And especially the dynamic. I thought the dynamic that they go for in this fight was that Wasabi would not be fighting on top form because she is worried or emotional surrounding what's happening with Tsubaki. That's what I thought they were going to do based on the reveal from a few episodes ago that Tsubaki is going to go back to the Land of Iron after the tuning exams. That this would affect Wasabi in terms of like the team maybe falling apart again or whatever. But no, that ended up not being a factor in this at all. Instead, they created this new dynamic, which hadn't been presented, I think, like ever before. And that is that Wasabi her goal is just to be a, good shinobi, a skilled shinobi, but she doesn't have super lofty ambitions. She specifically doesn't want to be the Hokage. And she's also hesitant to set any particular goal for herself just because she seems to subscribe to this sort of perspective that if you're not from a super high class clan, that you can only go so far. And so the big point they make here is that her clan has never had a Jonin. So she feels that it's even too much pressure on herself to even say that I want to become a Jonin, let alone saying that she wants to become Hokage. So it frustrates her to hear Iwabe in the other locker room just be so kind of brazen out there, confident, openly confident that I will become Hokage someday. That is my dream. And I suppose the point that is made here is that Iwabe and her are both from not particularly notable clans, and the dynamic that they go for is he expects a brawl fight and he's ready to go. She isn't. And he feels that, okay, this is a problem. I know who she is. She's not fighting normally. I need to get her, into this fight. And he begins to focus much more on just trying to establish her resolve, get her to actually fight and have proper ambitions. To the point where a lot of the people watching the fight are like, what is going on here? Like, they're in the middle of a tuning exam fight that will get a promotion if they win. Why are they having a conversation with each other and arguing with each other more than fighting? And again, it's one of those ones where like I don't think every single piece of dialogue in this is super important, but the core of what is talked about across the episode I thought was actually decent. It just was very stretched out because we didn't really see a lot of action. I think they definitely could have done this where they had them like at least clashing a little bit more than they did. I didn't like that they just completely stopped the fight to have the whole conversation. They could have done this where, like, okay, Iwabe has the advantage because Wasabi's not fighting on full tilt, but he's also not pushing his advantage as much as he should. But the fight is still flowing. Instead, they clash and they're talking, like, pushing against each other, but then they just stop. And that wasn't particularly great. Because, like I said, what happens from there is that the discussion turns to the special jutsu that her grandmother has given her, the ultimate jutsu of her clan, the legendary cat jutsu. So she brings it in, it gets, she drops it in the middle of the fight, and Iwabe sees it, like, what is that? She has to explain that, you know, it's the secret jutsu of her clan, but she doesn't believe in it. She doesn't think it will actually work, but more so, she doesn't think she can actually use that jutsu. She's not confident enough in herself to do it. And she relays the story that her grandmother told her about, like, what the jutsu is meant to look like. That it forms a cat that's the size of this giant tree, cat that's the size of a house, cat that's the size of a mountain. And she thinks her grandmother's just making it up. The other emotional sort of point that she makes is that she does literally say the point that is effectively that I don't think I can get too far because I come from a lower clan. And you get the point of her mother covering up the grandmother's ears so she doesn't have to hear this. So that was meant to be the big sort of like kind of shocking statement of just her almost, I wouldn't say ashamed, but kind of feeling that her lineage is something that holds her back in a way. So Iwabe, to prove the point here, is like, you don't believe that there can be a cat the size of a mountain. I'll show you the cat the size of a mountain. And so he uses every single bit of his chakra to create a giant cat kind of statue monument that is huge in the middle of the arena and is a cat the size of a mountain. Now, he collapses after this from lack of chakra, and then the structure, because it's so big, begins to crack. The head falls off, and so the end of this fight is Wasabi using the jutsu that's just on the ground to charge in, activate, and destroy the head before it crushes the unconscious Iwabe. After this, of course, she's still up and going. Iwabe is unconscious on the ground, so she has to be declared the winner. But she's frustrated that Iwabe did all this and now can't fight. Now that she's ready to fight, he can't. So she wins through not really having a fight, and it's not the biggest moment for her. But the fact that she used the special jutsu, which I think they basically said no one in the clan had really used before, because it was a legend or only someone years ago, so the clan in years hasn't been able to use it. It's a highlight that, you know, she is sort of the star of the clan. She is has the highest potential of any of their clan members in years. So she gains that confidence to realize that no, she is good. So that at least was good to see. But yeah, Iwabe completely threw this fight just to help Wasabi, which is kind of interesting. I suppose you could view this fight a little bit in the sort of like the ship between these two, if you really want to sort of think about it for the future. That, yeah, Wasabi and Iwabe probably would be the ship that they go for, maybe, if there is one between characters. So there's that. So I think what this result does, is it definitely confirms that the other fight after Sarada and Chocho is going to be Tsubaki versus Denki. And I think Denki is going to win this one. Now that I think they're hyping this fight up a little bit more because they obviously have created a story behind Tsubaki, but also a story behind Denki. That being that Tsubaki is actually one of the more impressive people in the exams based on the first couple of parts. And she seems to be pretty confident. And then Denki, you would say, just on paper, is probably the weakest in terms of a one-on-one combat sense. But they're allowed to bring ninja tools in this time, scientific ninja tools, as long as you make them. And Denki can make them. So I think they're definitely building to the idea that, they're probably going to play a little bit on, because they didn't do anything with Wasabi with regards to what's happening with Tsubaki. I think Tsubaki's maybe going to be a little bit overconfident, feeling that she has the easy fight here against Denki, and just be very surprised and probably lose in the end. And her losing will confirm to her that she is not ready to finish her training in the Leaf Village, and so she'll stick around and realize she doesn't need to go back now because she isn't ready. And that way, what you've done with a lot of the teams that we don't know a lot about is basically there's now one tuning on each of these teams. You have Hoki, Wasabi, and Denki on those three kind of teams that we don't get too much focus on. So I think that's what they're going to do. They do tell us that the next fight is going to be Sarada against Chocho. So next episode is going to be pretty hyped because I think we're all expecting this to be a huge sort of proving moment for Sarada to earn the title of Chunin and really have this be the sort of second stage of the arc that they sort of started when they made her the sort of leader of Team 7 in the Boro fight. Of like, here's an official way to do that, is for her to be the first member of the team to become a Chunin. She needs to prove it to herself, especially because of what they did here, where like she's in the crowd watching the fight that we see in this episode, and the three Sand Chunin come in. Like they've already been made Chunin a while ago, and one of them makes a comment that like, oh, you're just slow. So it's going to mean a lot for her to finally get the rank of Chunin, and the preview seems to be setting up the idea that there's not going to be too much of an arc here at the start about the two being maybe apprehensive about fighting each other. They seemed shocked when they were drawn against each other, but I get the feeling they're both going to be competitive enough to just, that'll be got out of the way very early on, and they will just kind of go at it. So we'll sort of, I suppose, in this fight get the brawl that we didn't get in the previous fight, which should be cool. They're setting up, like they're showing us a little bit more of the sort of flashback Sasuke training Sarada. Am I expecting anything sort of huge to happen with regards to Sarada's development? I'm not sure. I don't. Are they going to do the third tomo? I don't think they will. I don't think they will. But you always have to be thinking about those type of things. I get the feeling that this is more going to be sort of a proving point of Sarada at the level that she's at this point. And that they'll save the third tomoe for a bigger moment for the anime. So, yeah, I think this one has to be Sarada's win, just because I feel giving it to Chocho is just them going against expectations for no real reason. By all means, make it a pretty close fight, acknowledge, Chocho's strength, and that she is so powerful that she can do pretty wide-ranging attacks that will force Sarada on the defensive, but ultimately have Sarada's skill and tactics be what win the day. She needs the victory, the rank, more than Chocho does. And the fact that they didn't give Inojin the win also, I think, means that they're not going to necessarily give the win to Chocho either. She just doesn't need it at all. And then it creates a weird dynamic in that team that, like, Chocho and Shikadai are the two tunings, and then Inojin is the only one who isn't. I'm not sure if they're going to do that. And that then leaves just what's happening with Boruto and Mitsuki. They didn't show us too much. Again, this is more of a teaser ahead of, I suppose, the bigger reveal with what's going on here in the next episode. They just get off the train. I suppose they backtracked and realized that, along the tracks, this was the only point at which the train slowed down. So this is the only point at which they could have safely got off, even if they were ninja. So that's relatively clever. They're in this facility now, and they Mitsuki's snake seems to be able to immediately track that, oh, Amado is here, let's go find him. The preview seems to suggest that he's sort of in control of this situation to a degree, because he doesn't seem to be like held captive as such, or else he's just being really, really chill and relaxed while being captive, which he was in the previous arc, of course, with the Leaf Village keeping him captive. But I don't know. We'll see what they do here. Is this just Amado trying to trick these bandits, or is something actually going on here? The main thing, though, is that it means that Boruto and Mitsuki are both not at the exam still, and they're still investigating. Their fight is going to be the last one, I guess. We'll see if the fourth fight is directly just they draw Tsubaki and Denki out, and it just, by luck, by chance, it happens that Boruto and Mitsuki is going to be the last fight, or if they have to argue for, like, look, there's only 4 people left, just reverse the 2 fights, the positioning of them, and they give the 2 of them more time. How much pressure do you really want to put on the plot to have the whole idea of will they, won't they show up? I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about that, but I'd like to see the fight, but there's so much sort of that happens around it, mainly with regards to Boruto, like, will they do it? And then the other thing is that because it's a tuning exam and it always gets, like, interrupted in some way, I'm waiting for some sort of a twist where they reveal that, yes, the winners of all the fights are tuning now. But we would also like to make you tuning because you represented this key trait of being a Leaf Shinobi, you represented this key trait, and so on. So, will they do that and just make everyone a tuning or not? I'm not sure. Because it feels kind of like Iwabe sacrificed the fight to help Iwabe. That's sort of a nice Leaf Village trait, but is it enough to earn him the rank of tuning? I'm not sure. But like I've been speculating, if they don't arrive for their fight and show up late, but they solve the problem and potentially get back Amado or reveal something about Amado, they solved a mission on their own. Still as Genin, that's a way to earn themselves a rank, I guess. Because again, what way are you wanting to do this? Where, like, you just have one tuning on every team? Or do you actually just want to give the tuning rank to everyone on Team 7? I'm not sure. Because if you have the fight, you either have to end it in a draw, or not have the fight happen in the first place. So I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about. So yeah, that's been my review for the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye. Before I go blind here from the sun.